thank you so much for joining my channel. I'm so excited to have this interview. We're talking with Claudia. Claudia is 27 years old from Peru, and we've been talking back and forth on Instagram, and Claudia's story it really spoke to me, and I'm pretty sure it's going to speak to you too. Thank you so much for subscribing. It helps us immensely to get the word out that there actually is freedom and peace of mind on the other side. Also, don't forget that I have a TikTok channel. If you're interested in that, go over there. We hang out. We have a really good time in the comment section over there. Claudia, tell us a little bit about yourselves, how long you were in the religion, and take it away from there.
Well, I was in the religion since I was 0 years old. I went there as my mom was pregnant. I went there from when I was in the belly, my mom's belly, until I was 17, and I was disfellowshipped because I was a bad influence. And I was a bad kid. Yes, and I wasn't.
What made you a bad kid?
The fact that I had friends that were worldly, the fact that I was trying to get a degree, like very good, high marks at my school, because I wanted to get a degree in psychology. I wanted to study at university. I was a bad kid because I would put my studies first before going to the meetings and all that. And then once I tried alcohol, and I had a very, very awful experience with it. I passed out for 6 hours, and the elders, I have no idea how they found out, and they put me in this comedy with the 3 elders and all that, and I was a bad influence because I had tried alcohol once.
Wow.
But I already had all those other things against me, so that was the drop. In my own family, my mom is okay with me being disfellowshipped. I still live with her, and we have an excellent relationship, even though I have tarot cards in my room, and she can see them, and she's still a very, very faithful and devout Jehovah's Witness. However, for example, in the case of one of my cousins, yes, his mom, she was so strict. He was disfellowshipped as well, because they've never actually told me the story, but I'm not stupid, so I know exactly why he was disfellowshipped. He's gay. And that's really something that breaks my heart. He's gay. And he was disfellowshipped for it, or at least I think so. And his mom, as soon as he was disfellowshipped, he was 17 years old, same age as me. He was thrown out of his house. And he actually went to live with my mom, which is why I think, because at that time my mom was not a Jehovah's Witness. So I think that's what made my mom not be so mean towards me when I was disfellowshipped, because she had experienced it before. Right. With my cousin. She was the one that told him, you can live here for a bit. She was the one that talked to my aunt, and well, nothing happened because she was so strict, and the whole family, his whole family shunned him, and he had to live homeless for a bit. He had my home, but he had no money. He was 17. Over here in my country, you cannot work if you're under 18, so you cannot make your own money. Until he was 18, and he was able to start as a teacher. But now he's back into a religion because how strongly the rules in his house were about shunning. He's back. He's actually an elder right now. But I believe that when you're sick, when you're sick in your mind, when you're so sad, when you hate your life so much, you manifest it in your body. I think that's why he has Parkinson's disease since very, very young. He's 50 years old? Mm-hmm. And he's had it since he's 30. And I think it's all this struggle, all this very awful feelings that he has in his chest about not accepting himself, so his body won't respond to him.
It's interesting you say that, because my therapist actually really helped me to appreciate this fact. There is a wonderful book. I'll link it in the comments. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks all about how our body holds on to trauma for your life, basically. So for me personally, I had fibromyalgia. I had all these obscure illnesses. The minute I started facing my trauma, it was like magic. My symptoms started subsiding. So there is a lot to be said about that in the psychology realm. Actually, in a few weeks, we're having the psychologist on here to speak to that as well. What woke you up? Even though you were disfellowshipped, did you get reinstated and then leave? What happened?
Never. I didn't go back. However, I woke up many years after I was disfellowshipped, truly woke up.
You were
Yes.
disfellowshipped, but you still believed it.
Yes, I thought that I was gonna live life my way. However, I knew that I was gonna die in Armageddon, right? I accepted it, but I decided that I wanted to be my own person, and who cares what's gonna happen in like 10 years, right?
Wow.
Yes, and I am lucky. I'm truthfully lucky because my dad was not a Jehovah's Witness. In fact, he's very Catholic. I don't know if you've heard about this movement, Catholic movement, the Opus Dei.
No, tell me about it.
Oh,
In Peru?
wow. Yeah, they started in Spain, and then they, like, of course, we're colonies, so they also like went to the colonies, and it's this very extremist group of the Catholic Church. So he's very, 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 very Catholic. In fact, I don't know if you know, we have over here things in South America that are called procesiones, in which you carry like the Virgin Mary or Jesus Christ in the like cross. You carry it because for the celebration. My dad does that. Like not anymore because he's old, but before when he was young. So he's that Catholic, and I think that's what saved me. Like,
Really? Were you drawn to his religion, or just the fact that you had a different viewpoint?
I had opposing forces. I had something that was like the same stuff, but completely opposite to my mom. And I was like, how can you be a Christian and have these different like facets, right? Like they're so opposite, but they believe in the same God, and they still do it. They fight all the time in the table about like religious stuff. Like, no, Matthew said this, and she's like, no, the interpretation of Matthew is this other thing, and you don't understand, and you don't understand, and it's so fun. And it's like, guys, you're just having different interpretations of the same thing, right? So it really helped me a lot. And also, I was in a school that encouraged you to think. They really encouraged you to think. We had philosophy as a class, we had biology, and real biology, not the one that is about like God created everything. No, 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 no. Like the real thing. And I was always encouraged to think for myself, to like discover things on my own. So that really saved me. Because when I was disfellowshipped, even though my world collapsed, it really collapsed, I decided that I was going to try and live life as they always told me not to, because I had never done it. Like I had tried it one way, and I had depression, anxiety. I think I've even had PTSD at this point while reading that book. I really, like, there are things that are sounding very familiar to me, and I think that's because of trauma. And it was, I lost everything when I was disfellowshipped. Even though I had the friends that I had at school, my mom made sure that I lost them too. She started a rumor that I had said that one of them had raped me. Yes, that awful. She said that one of my classmates that were my only friends outside the ones that I had at the religion had raped me. And of course, they thought that it was me, the one that had said that, but it was my mom. And no one wanted to talk to me anymore. And then I got disfellowshipped, so I had no one. Even though at first I had like my school friends and worldly friends, I didn't have them anymore when I was disfellowshipped. So I was alone on my own. And I decided at that point that I was going to try living my life as myself. I've tried to kill myself when I was young 4 times. That's how awful this religion has affected me. And that's why I want to talk to everyone, because right now, I wouldn't even think about it. I'm so happy, guys. So at that point, like I believed that something was wrong with me, because I couldn't believe as my mom could believe. And I just like believed it mentally, but that thing about faith, like what you feel here, that was like foreign to me. That didn't exist. That was what are they talking about? Like, what's that? Why don't I feel it? Why does everyone feel it and I don't? Like, what's wrong with me? And
how old were you when you were baptized?
11.
You just mentioned you never really felt it. Even after being baptized, I agree with you. I don't ever recall a time where I felt what other people described as that faithful feeling. You know, I remember feeling happy and grateful. I remember having good moments, but I never felt like this moment of faith like you're describing.
Yes, and I didn't even have that. Like I didn't even have like the like positive moments. I would go to the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall, and I would feel dread, and I would feel depressed, and I would feel anxiety. And my friends were there, and I couldn't wait for the meeting to end so I could go talk to my friends. That was the only like positive things about going to the Kingdom Hall. I felt so different from everyone. I always wanted to do things my own like way, and everyone else didn't, and I was looked down because of it.
Because you're a strong, independent woman, and that is
Not well seen.
not a good thing. Something you
No.
said in pre-production that I think is really important is when people in the Spanish culture are trying to fade. It was very profound what you said, and advice you can offer them, because of the way the culture is very loving. It's hard to fade away from that. So can you speak to that?
Definitely. In my personal case, I never faded because I was just disfellowshipped from, like, I was a Jehovah's Witness one day and then I wasn't on the other. I think it's better if you start like fading like little by little. If you start missing like one meeting a week, and you start maybe then not go into the family, how do you call it, adoration, family worship, I think it's in English, right? Yeah, not go into one family worship thingy, and like start little by little. But I couldn't. It was like from one day to another, like I was no longer Jehovah's Witness. And I think that was the worst for my mom. She actually traveled, she had to leave the country to like really integrate it. And what helped me was to show her that I was still a really good person, even though I was no longer a Jehovah's Witness. That's something that everyone can do. Guys, people in the religion, and I think you can definitely like relate to this. You think that people that are worldly are bad and that they cannot be good people because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Only Jehovah's Witnesses can be truly good people. So that's what I did. I became a really good person because, of course, in the end, I started because I wanted to prove something, and it's taken me places that I never imagined I would end. And now I love like what Jesus taught us. I'm really a Jesus fan. Not a fan of his fan club, but a fan of Jesus, and I try to like do everything that he says, and I put it in my life.
I just love the way that you said it. I'm a Jesus fan. That should be a t-shirt, Claudia. That needs to be a t-shirt. One of the things I found fascinating about you is that intuitively you're able to pick up on the struggles that someone is struggling with when families live together, the normalcy of the culture while trying to leave the organization. Can you speak to the struggles and what you think would be best for someone? Because in our community, I see a lot of posts where, yes, the families live together until the women get married, and that's just the way the culture is. And it also is very loving. So what are some things that you can speak on for that if someone in the audience is listening, dealing with that?
Yes, if someone is Disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness in a South American country, this is gonna be really hard because you're gonna feel like a fish out of water because you don't have your own family and everyone else does, even the people that are outside the religion. And if you're in one of those really conservative places in South America, you will be seen badly by the community. The worldly community, if you move on your own and you're not married. It's changing quite a lot at this point, but it's still something. Like, my dad is not a Jehovah's Witness, but he's really Catholic, and he's the one that opposes the most on me moving in with my boyfriend without being married.
Wow.
So, yeah. So it's even like a cultural thing, and so it's hard leaving when you have been disfellowshipped. So what I would advise is try to have as little like moments to like have contact with your family as possible. I know that sounds awful, but if you don't have to like be sitting there in the table with them like in silence, it's not gonna be so awkward. For example, like if you can take your food to your room instead of doing the usual, which is like sitting in the table with your family and sharing like very nice and familiar moments, just go and like eat while watching a TV show. You won't feel so alone. You might miss a little bit your family, but you won't feel so alone as eating with them there and not talking to you, right? At that time when my mom was just adjusting, because we have a really good relationship right now, but I'm lucky because that was not how it was at the beginning. It's how it's become. She was not as bad as other moms though. She allowed me to stay at home. My aunt kicked my cousin out of his house when he was 17, and actually he was received by my mom, as I was telling you. So that's why she didn't kick me out. She wasn't as bad as she could have been, because she had seen previously with my cousin's experience, because my cousins are like way older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like many years before she was even a Jehovah's Witness. So she saw the cruelty of like shunning. So she was shunning me, but at the same time she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And now she doesn't shun me like at all. In fact, she told me, I will never shun you. And I cried so much when she said that, because you can definitely understand that what those words mean, right? That's something that I've always been afraid of.
You also mentioned that there's also love in the family unit. When someone doesn't believe it anymore, they're disfellowshipped, or they fade, and they lose the love not only of the congregation, but also culturally. That's how families are. So I can imagine that would be a huge struggle as well. Because, you said you've been to the States and it's cold.
You guys are cold.
Yeah.
You guys are so cold. Like, that's something that actually helped me a little to realize how it was very different. If you just live in South America and you see just how the congregations are here, you can definitely think that they have like Jehovah's Spirit. It is very harmonious. It is very loving. Like, I would feel dread and anxiety when I would go to a Kingdom Hall. But anyone else that was not like related, for example, when I was 15, a family of Venezuelan people moved very close to my house. They were not Jehovah's Witnesses. Mm-hmm. And like one of my mom's friends, of course she's a sister, she's a regular pioneering. She found out this person was new to the community, to our like neighborhood, and she made sure to make her feel so loved, so well received, that of course she became a Jehovah's Witness. Of course. Mm-hmm. It was her daughter, her son. So of course, because they were so well received, and they, like, my mother's friend actually called me and she said, like, Claudia, there is a new family in the neighborhood and the daughter is about your age. So what I'm going to be doing is, for today's meeting, I've invited them to the meeting today, so I'm gonna pick you up, and you're not gonna go to a meeting with your mom as usual, but you're gonna go with me in my car, and we're gonna pick this family up. And since you're so nice, because I'm nice, I have to admit it, I'm very, like, I work in customer service for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was the one that was gonna be introducing her to everyone, and it was just like that. We picked her up. I was talking to her mom, I was talking to her and her brother and her little brothers, and I made them feel so welcome, because that's my personality as a Latina woman. I like making people, like, and also because I never really felt at home anywhere because of this religion. I like making people feel at home whenever I can, because I never felt like that. So I don't want you to be like that, to feel like that. I want you to feel welcome. So that's what I did. And I would like hang out with this girl, and eventually they baptized, and now they're Jehovah's Witnesses. And I feel like such a bad person for like being part of that.
Right. Yes. And then when it comes to someone who's living at home and they are part of a loving family and a loving culture and a loving congregation, and then they decide they don't believe it anymore.
Oh no, that's like the worst part, because you gotta, like, one of my friends right now, like, he was just asking me, Claudia, you've been disfellowshipped for longer, like, how do I do it? He's right now a Jehovah's Witness. And it's so hard, because you have to fade, like, as I was telling you, little by little, like, make them get used to you not going to one meeting. And that takes months and even years, and you have to be there, and you have to listen to their conversations, and Jehovah this and Jehovah that. And they're like, over here, I don't know if it's the same on the States, because no one actually introduced themselves to me and made me feel at home over there. So I never met like anyone significantly really over there. But over here, like, families, if you are in a Jehovah's Witness family, everything is Jehovah. Mm-hmm. So, for example, like, let's say grace or whatever, let's say thank you for our foods, Jehovah. You know what? Thanks to Jehovah, I have this, I don't know, new purse that I was looking for. Like, everything is a Jehovah experience.
Yeah, Jehovah experience. That's another shirt. I love it.
But it is. Is it the same over there?
It can be. It depends on the person. I mean, in my upbringing, yes, everything was, I avoided a car accident, so Jehovah was looking out for me. But that means the other person who was in a car accident didn't have Jehovah looking out for them. It doesn't make any sense. Here's one of the things that I find fascinating. So there's this story, or it's an example of, I think it was mentioned in a recent talk or one of the broadcasts, where this brother needed $80 to make a bill, and he really needed it, and he needed it for his car. And long story short, by the end of the month, he had that money and he had his car fixed. And they're like, oh, praise to Jehovah. Interestingly, that's how the brain works. When we know we need something, we manifest it and we make it work. We figure it out. So he may not even have realized he was putting things in motion for that situation to actually rectify itself, but no, we're so conditioned to not give ourselves credit. We're so conditioned to not think, man, I really worked hard to get that bill paid. No, everything's got to go to God, because we are dust and we are made of nothing, and our hearts are stupid and we can't trust our hearts. So sure, it can be like that over here too. It depends on the family. Anything that wasn't Jehovah's Spirit was Satan.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. Yes. Over here, the Jehovah experience way of life is the rule. So fading here is hard because of that, because they will notice if you stop saying Jehovah everything.
Well, that's mainly our viewership is comprised of people who have either been out for a really long time or people who are trying to find their way out. And it's interesting, and I'm grateful to have you as a resource to another culture in the same religion to speak to those who are trying to figure this out, because I see threads of people saying, I live at home with like 5 or 6 people and they're all hardcore JWs, and it's just not their thing anymore.
So I try to do the same with ex-Jehovah's Witness. I'm really here for anyone. What I would say with that is you have to find your community. Like in a Latin American country, you have to find your ExJw community, because otherwise you won't make it. And everyone else is going to have their families, even the worldly people, as I was telling you. So you will feel completely alone. And as a South American person, as a Latina, like me, not so much, but that's because of many other things in my upbringing and many things that have happened in my life. I'm very independent, but mostly over here, us as a culture, we're very dependent on our communities. We have like our congregations are everything, like for real. And if you're gonna leave that, it's gonna be so hard, and you might think about going back just because you miss your community, you miss your family, you miss your friend, you miss your world, because it is your world. That's how it is a cult. Like, oh gosh, how can they not realize it's a cult? But yes, so what you have to do, what really helped me was that as soon as I was disfellowshipped, I went and talked to a friend that I knew had been disfellowshipped not so long ago. So I was like, hey, Jonathan, how are you? So I just got disfellowshipped. How are you managing this? I need friends. And he was like, I need friends too. So he introduced me to another friend of his that was a daughter of a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness. And her mom was like had faded, but she was like, yeah, sometimes she believed and she went sometimes. So she was also like an outcast in the congregation, because like her family was a very prominent family in the congregations. Because like in 3 congregations even, like she has a very prominent family. And since she is not like the rule, like for example, my friends that like both the parents are Jehovah's Witness, one is an elder, the other one is like a regular pioneering, the sons and daughters are all like trying to get into Bethel or to be a regular pioneering. No, she was like, she didn't want to know anything about Jehovah. She was like against it. So she was an outcast as well inside her own community, and she didn't make friends easily. So he introduced me to her, and she became my best friend for so many years. We're no longer friends, but I really appreciate everything she did for me in those years. She really helped me and gave me a community that I didn't have. He also did that for me, and we got together with other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and we became our own community until I was able to outgrow it myself and become like a worldly regular person. But at first, that's what really really helped me. And I tried to spend as little time as possible outside of my house and like be with my ExJw friends. And that was what really, really helped me. They want to talk to me, like if you want to hang out in my country or anywhere else, I'm open for as many friends as anyone. Like if you want to be friends with me, I'm here.
I love it. I think that's universal. Is one of the first steps to getting out is to find the community, find a soft place to land for when you do leave. In my case, I had a few good friends that were not witnesses that I knew would be there, that I knew would help me unravel. Everything I saw on YouTube echoed what I was feeling inside. I just needed that reassurance. It was amazing. But then I thought, I'm going to lose everyone I love. But that's how they keep you, is to hold your friends and family over your head. And if you deviate or if you believe differently, if you leave, you lose those people. So I agree with you. Finding a community on the outside, and it could be anything. And you don't even need, I also think as Jehovah's Witnesses, we fall into this pattern of over-explaining, right? We need to tell people who we're hanging out with, why we're hanging out with them. And there's no need for that. Just find people that you can relate to. There's got to be an uprising, right? I keep saying that in all my videos. There's an uprising happening.
Oh, it's definitely coming in every single sense. You're going to like, I'm telling you right now, the world is going to be something completely different in just like the next 3 years.
Yeah. Interesting. I want to talk about that with you too, because I'm 41, you're 27. So you were raised in the digital age. And for Jehovah's Witnesses nowadays, there is a huge amount of young people who are waking up. And I think it has everything to do with the amount of information that's out there. Do you think that that was also part of what helped you unravel this, was finding online communities?
You want to know something? I actually found the ExJw community like 5 years after being disfellowshipped.
Wow.
I never even dared researching something against Jehovah.
Neither did
5 years had to go through.
Yeah. Neither did I. Got reinstated thinking, this is it. This is where I belong, thinking that I deserved it. But I never did research either. But I think that we're getting away from that. I think people are getting smarter and braver. I think that that's what's happening.
I know. And the thing is that actually the digital information that we have at hand did help me, not because I researched things against Jehovah's Witness, but because I researched things because I wanted, and I've heard this so many times from so many other Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm very mental. I'm a very mental person. I like to read a lot. I've always loved it. So I wanted to make sense of the teachings, right? I wanted to prove that evolution was not a thing because I was being taught at school that it was. And I was like, no, that's not what I've been told. That's not how it works. And then finding out that what I had been taught made no sense. It was like, oh gosh, okay, no, next topic, right? And I would keep on researching things that just because I wanted to prove other people wrong.
Right.
And then I was proving myself wrong, and I was like, oh gosh, no.
I love that you said that. I wanted to prove myself wrong. I wanted to, and I only use JW literature because that's the only thing I felt comfortable with. I used their own stuff, their own Bible, to prove to myself, oh, this makes no sense. And that was it for me. So that's also the tip that I give to people. Number one, find a community. Number two, if you're not comfortable going into support groups, if you're not comfortable researching, which clearly you and I just said, we get it. Use your own literature. Use your critical thinking brain. Read what's in front of you.
Exactly.
They tell on themselves. They do.
Yeah, they do. And well, right now you don't have access to that much information, but before I would have the CD rooms.
Yes.
With the library, and I think now that everything is digital, they've taken out some of the publications, but at those times I had everything at hand. So I would try and research, and for example, I wanted to prove, everyone at school thought that I was the weird kid because I was a Jehovah's Witness and I'm also a weird person. So I love my weird now, but when you're a teenage girl and you're different from everyone else, you want to be similar to everyone else because you don't, otherwise kids are mean. So I was trying to prove themselves that I was not just weird, that I had the truth. I was right, they were wrong. My weird was how it was and not how they were living their lives, because that's they teach you to be like either one or the other. They teach you about duality, and they install you duality so much. So I was trying to do that, and then I was like, and I wanted to like present it at school at like for example, I had a like math assignment about doing some kind of like charts, and I chose the 77 times. I think it's the 77 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Brave.
And I wanted to do something something like, look, this is what the Jehovah's Witnesses say about this, and it makes sense, so they are right. Because actually, then I realized I was trying to prove myself that they were right. And they weren't, and I couldn't do it, and I had to choose a different topic because it just, the dates didn't match. Right. They don't. And I tried to do it in like in a chart, so I know they don't match.
Something you said a little bit ago, I'm finding is a trend, and maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, where you said you can't get a job before the age of 18. So what do these kids do who are coming out and unraveling, deconstructing the religion while still very dependent on their families, other than finding a community? And with some families that may actually be impossible, with no car, no job, no money. So what are some things you suggest to do that are acceptable culturally for these kids who are waking up and have nowhere to go?
This is a really sad advice that I'm going to give, but you have to fake it. Unfortunately, you have to fake it. Fake it until you're able to escape. Because you don't have any other way. If you are underage and you are disfellowshipped, and I know people that well, now they're no longer underage. Oh gosh, I feel like younger than I am.
Oh, so I do too. I said I'm 41 and you're 27, and I'm like, wait, we're the same age.
Yeah, exactly. I feel 18. So I've met people that were disfellowshipped when they were like 15 or 16, and it was mandatory for them to assist to every single meeting. It was mandatory for them to read the daily text. Yeah. It was mandatory for them to do all the religious things. It was what you had to do. Otherwise, they would get grounded. So if that is your case, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And my advice is nothing but fake it. Like, I know it's not the best advice, but unfortunately, when they're the ones that are in charge of everything, your parents, and they're Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're the ones that you need for money and shelter and things, you have no other choice but to fake it. And it's going to be tough, and it's going to be really hard for you, for your own personality, but it's just going to make you stronger, I swear.
This is very similar to being in a toxic relationship or a controlling relationship, and you can't get out right away. You can't get out right now for a million reasons, but you get a plan, you get a solid plan. And the beautiful thing right now about people who are living in the environment that we're speaking of is that step one is done, waking up. That one's done. So that's one of the hardest steps. Now, if you have to be part of the JW community for your own safety for right now, and you have a plan in the back of your mind, fill yourself with therapy, fill yourself with psychology, fill your brain with positivity, with things that protect you from re-indoctrinating. Once you wake up, you can't unhear or unsee, because I think that's the concern. They're afraid of being re-indoctrinated.
Oh, of course. Everyone is you're less susceptible once you realize it. But the thing is that you don't wake up at once. You wake up in layers.
It's a process, not an event.
It's a process. Yeah. Exactly. So if you haven't woken up as much, it's possible, you get into this cognitive dissonance moment in which you say, okay, I've seen that this is not black, this is white. But my life is better if I believe that this is black. So you just keep on believing that is black, even though you know deep down it's not, right? That is white. Just to give an example.
Right.
As I was telling you, it's taken me years to complete, and not even completely. I still sometimes, I'm thinking, and right now I'm doing a mindful exercise, which is I examine every single thought that I have. Mm-hmm. It is examined because I realized that I had not woken up 100%. Mm-hmm. And through meditation, I realized that I was still very indoctrinated in some things, for example, about demons and things that had to do with the devil. And I was like, but you don't truly believe in those things. Mm-hmm. But you've been indoctrinated in but you feel them. because you've been scared and indoctrinated. And it's like, oh gosh, yes, this is the problem. And I am systematically cutting at it, like working on it. But it's really, really hard. So that's why right now what I do is I examine every single thought that goes through my mind. I examine it and I try to think, is this like the cult talking? Or is this me talking? Is this my inner voice or is it someone else's?
And when it comes to making a transformation is little steps over a long period of time. That's what a true transformation is. And I noticed trauma, when you go through trauma, and indoctrination and being in a high control religion is in fact a trauma. And it's not that the trauma ever leaves you, but your relationship with the trauma ends up changing. So if you're trapped in an environment where it's constantly being fed to you and the propaganda is thrown at you, one of the things that I tackled first was the guilt and shame cycle. So I remember that if I didn't read the daily text or if I didn't make a meeting, the guilt was so intense. For example, like if I didn't make a Sunday meeting, I felt like I couldn't socialize after the Sunday meeting. Like I had to stay home all day Sunday because I didn't go to the meeting earlier in the day. That's what's taught to you. And then the guilt just continues. And it's this, and then those behaviors do spill into your life outside the organization.
Yes, it requires a lot of things. But if you're going, like if there's someone that's going through this path, just know that there's a reason why you're going through this path. And if you're waking up, believe me, there are so many things ahead for you, like so many awesome things. I'm getting like,
let's talk about that.
Happy right now.
Let's talk about that. So, okay, so let's back up a little bit. So you get disfellowshipped, you're 17 years old, you figure this out, you go through the path of enlightenment, which is awesome.
Not at the beginning. At first I was a very judgy person, and I had this boyfriend. And because I was just like freshly out of the religion, I got really into my boyfriend and into his family. I became a very toxic person in that relationship because that's the only source of like love that I was receiving, right? And he broke up with me because, of course, like I don't blame him at all. Actually, I really like thank him now for it. We no longer talk. I don't know what his life is about right now, but I really truthfully thank him for leaving me, because once he left me and I no longer had anything, once I was really like down, I was like, oh gosh, like I started like swearing at God and saying like, you asshole, you've taken everything from me. Like Job, I was like Job, like saying, you son of a, like you've taken all that I wanted in my life. I haven't asked for much, and you've taken everything and anything that I've ever wanted. And I was so bad, like I was in such a bad place. And then I realized, like, why am I being so mad at God? Even though I no longer believe in God at this point, but at that point, like, why are you so mad at God when you were the one that were toxic? You were the one that were doing these kinds of behaviors. And it like forced me. That was the point where, yes, I was forced into enlightenment. I was forced. This is what we call shadow work. So I was forced into treating this wound about like, and I realized that I was so clingy and I was so toxic and I was like this because I had very low self-esteem. Because of course the religion like strips you off your self-esteem. And
it does. It's a trauma response, right? When we're in a narcissistic relationship, we adopt those behaviors and then we exhibit those behaviors and we seek out to mirror those behaviors in our lives. I grew up in dysfunction, so I looked for dysfunction because that was normal to me. That was comfortable.
Exactly. And same with me. And I realized that, and I said, no, I deserve happiness. I deserve to be my own person. I deserve to do whatever I want. Everything that I want is valid and is good. So I just did.
So now what's next for Claudia? What's going on in your life now?
Once I was in that path, once I started healing myself, like truly healing myself and like loving myself, I met a wonderful guy. We've been together for 4 years. I consider myself a very successful person, and not because I have like a really good job or anything like that. Not at all. It's not about my job. It's not even about my like relationship. It's about myself. I feel that I am going in the right direction. I've finally been able to discover faith in myself. Like I know faith, the faith that everyone talks about at the kingdom halls and all, and it's and I'm putting it on myself, and
Yeah.
it feels so nice. And we're moving to Canada. I'm getting married in a couple of months, if not sooner. Like, everything is really good. Life is good.
You've just been such an inspiration this whole time.
The worst part is not having anyone to talk to. So I'm available. I'm always available.
Well, now we get a
Alex,
team. Now we have more popping up that want to get on our show and they want to be a resource. That's what I really love about this channel, is it's becoming a resource for people. I'm just kind of the middleman. Like, oh, you're feeling this way, go that way. You're in this country, go to her, she can help. And I just think that that's what we need. I think that that's awesome.
yeah,
You know,
we need a support group.
Yeah, yes, but empowerment is the focus. You know, we can badmouth the governing body all day, but they do really well on their own. But it's kind of like, okay, I woke up, I'm unraveling indoctrination. Here's how I feel. Now what? We want to provide the now what. That's what I think is really important for it to stick. Because here's the thing about making decisions, and this is something we were never taught in the organization, is that the only way for a decision and a mindset and a belief to actually unwind and new ones to form is to come to those conclusions on our own. We have to come to those, like, you can't wake people up. You can't tell people they're in a cult. You can't tell people that. They have to come to these decisions on their own.
And, like, that's our first mistake, I think, as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's why they call us, like, what's the term in English? When you are about bad-mouthing Jehovah, what's the term?
Apostate.
Apostate. They call us apostates, but it's not that we are that. We just woke up and we want everyone to be as happy as we are. Right. It's more about, like, spreading positivity than negativity, really.
Yeah. So, just like, listen, it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be a struggle, but there is nothing, you cannot put a price on peace of mind, right?
Exactly. And I've tried waking up my family. I've tried waking up at first I tried waking up my mom. I tried waking up one of my cousins. Like, she is almost out, but life is way easier if she's in, so she won't.
Interesting. I love that you said that. Life is easier. I've heard that before. It's a
She told me that.
She told you that.
She told me that. Like, I talked to her and I was like, because after some years I went back to the meetings just to go and see, like, and see it from a different perspective. I went back to a meeting with her family. So while they were, like, saying hi to everyone and I was with her in the car, she was keeping me company, and they were just talking to me at that point because I was willing to go to the meeting, and they were, like, giving me a ride and they were sitting with me. So they were like, oh, since you're coming, that means it is a step forward into going back to Jehovah and things like that. So they were talking to me, and she kept me company in the car. We used to be really, really, really close. We used to be best friends. And of course, once I was disfellowshipped, that ended. And I was talking to her and I was like, sweetie, I've been here, I've gave it a try. And it's just nonsense to me. Like, how can you do this? How can you not see it? We used to have this game when we were Jehovah's Witnesses that was called the Magic Finger, in which we would go to the, preaching, like, blocks and the houses and everything. And instead of ringing the bell, we'll just pretend to ring the bell just to talk to each other. And that because we were afraid, like, ashamed of what we were doing. She was ashamed with me. So, like, I was like, remember how we used to play, like, the magic finger game? Remember how we used to be ashamed of all this? Like, I know you still feel like this. What's wrong? And she was like, but everything is here. My family's here. Yes, maybe they're not right. Maybe they don't have the truth. But what if they do? And, like, also, my family's here. Everyone that I love is here. At that point, she was able to convince her high school sweetheart. She had a boyfriend that was worldly when she was in high school, and they had to break up because, of course, he was not a Jehovah's Witness and she was. But then they loved each other so much that he converted for her, like, 7 years later, and they got married, like, 10 years later. Like, and then she was like, I have everything here. Why would I leave? Like, what's out there for me? And I was like, happiness, like, you being able to be yourself without restrictions. She was like, nah, I'm good. I don't need it. No.
Well, the other thing too is, I think people who live a life and free of judgment of oneself, free of judgment of other people. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to leave, and they paint this picture in your mind that once you leave, you're going to lose everything. You're going to get into drugs, and you're going to like. Interestingly, I know of people who were shunned, who were disfellowshipped, who ended up, unfortunately, their trauma was unnoticed, and they did actually fall into drugs, not because they wanted to, but because the religion took its toll on their mind. It took its toll on them. You lose your family and friends. What do you know? You don't know anything. So they teach you to be afraid of the world, and then they'll throw you out into the very world that they teach you to be afraid of.
And you're scared. And of course, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, for example, I had a friend and he's gay. And he was disfellowshipped around the same time that I was disfellowshipped because he was gay. Mm-hmm. And after a couple of years that we were out, I was just starting my spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to meet with him. So I said yes, of course. And we were talking, and he was like, okay, I'm going back to Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like, what? No, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, your parents talk to you. Like, you're not completely shunned. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And he was like, because the Jehovah's Witnesses are right. And I was like, wait, what? No, like, okay, like, explain that to me. And he was like, yes, they said that the gay people were so bad, and that everyone was in drugs, and that everyone was like very promiscuous. And I was like, who you've been hanging with? Like, I have gay friends that, yes, I have gay friends that are into drugs, and I have gay friends that are promiscuous. And I also have gay friends that are not into drugs and not promiscuous. Like, who have you been hanging out with? And he was like, no, the Jehovah's Witnesses are right, because I've seen the awful world out there and everything is bad. And yes, the gay community is not what it seems like. And yes, the community he was in was not like a positive community, but it's not the only community. But since he was already with that idea in his mind that everything was bad, he just saw the bad sides. So he went back. And even though I tried talking to him, he went back. And that's something that really...
Oh, wow.
That was really hard for me, because I tried my best and I couldn't put into words how it was so awful.
And it's hard when you're on this side now, because you see the potential in people. You see how they're not living their best life. You see so many great things in people now that you're taught to not audit them and look at their flaws. You see their strengths, and you just want to help them, like almost like push them into their greatness. And it's really difficult when you're on this side now to see your friends like that. Friends I've known for 20 years, I think. Boy, they
exactly.
Yeah.
We've been friends with him since we were like 6 years old or 5 years old. I know him all my life. Wow. And actually, he went back. I was in the meeting in which he was reinstated. Mm-hmm. Not like presently, but my mom was in it, and I was on the living room and I was reading a book. So I was sort of like hearing what they were saying, and they announced it that he was back, and I started crying my eyes off, and my mom was like, why are you so happy that he's back? And I was like, the opposite, Mom. I'm sorry, I cannot be happy about this. Not so long ago, I had the opportunity to talk to him again. The same situation, the same topic. And 3 years later, I was able to put into words all the things that I've been learning throughout this journey that I've been in. And I finally think I've been able to help him realize how precious, how awesome, like he's amazing. And I think I was able to allow him to glimpse himself the way I see him, like at least for a tiny bit. And I think that actually helped him. And I feel so good about that.
Well, you're a good person to have around at all costs. You are that person you can tell that you've really unraveled a lot of the gloom and doom and the shame and the guilt. And now it's our turn to pay it forward. And I'm so glad to know you. And I know our audience feels the same. Thank you so much for all of your insight into this, and for reaching out and volunteering to come on here and talking about culture and what goes on in South America, and for educating me on that, because I think that there needs to be more awareness of what people who want to leave the religion go through.
It's even harder here in South America because you are closer to where the need is great. So you even have that like push. Wow. For example, you guys in the United States, you're always like encouraged to go where the need is great. But then the like need is so far away from you guys. In exchange here, the need is so close that you're told like, why are you not going to where the need is great? It's like a couple of hours from here. So it's really, really hard, like because of many reasons. And And yes, of course. And as I was telling you, I'm happy to be here. As I was saying before, I am a Jesus fan, and I truly believe in doing unto others what you would like to be done unto you, and unto loving others as if it was yourself. Those are like the two things that really rule my life, and I really enjoy it and I love it. And the fact that I'm a
Yeah,
Jesus follower, but just Jesus,
uh,
not
I love
fan
it.
club.
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing. There is no such thing as supposed to be. When you leave a religion that tells you what to believe and how to believe, it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you love what you believe. And people who leave the religion either go atheist or they do still believe in Jesus. That's okay. I'm a firm believer in that. I didn't leave Jehovah. I left an organization claiming to worship Jehovah. I say that all the time. So I don't think it's weird. I think it's great. And you seem really happy. So thank you for being an example. I really appreciate it. We're going to have you back on. I want to see how you're doing. I want to talk about your wedding. And again, if you need to reach out to Claudia, please reach out to her. And all of her information is in the description box.
Oh, guys, yes, my Instagram is private, but please do feel free to send me a message and I'll add you to my Instagram. It's just private because over here in Peru, like there's a lot of gossip between ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and like the families and all that. And that's why I keep my Instagram private, because I don't want everyone knowing what I'm doing. But if you come to my Instagram with the bestest of energies and like want to have a friend, I'm here. I just don't want like people to gossip about me because I don't like it.
I love it. Bring your good energy. That's all I ask. That's how I feel about my channel. Bring your good energy. Thank you so much for being on our show, Claudia, and we'll check up with you again next time, okay?
It's been a pleasure, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Until next time.
If you want to be on the show, email me at wendirenay@gmail.com and we'll get you up on the schedule. Thank you so much for watching our show, and we'll see you next time.